Hello, film fans. Welcome to the Film vs. Film podcast. My name is Martin Harries, your host, and I'm joined by the film encyclopedia man, Boaz Dix. We are a couple of filmmakers on occasion, but mainly can't stop yapping about movies. On this podcast, every episode we pick a topic from a film that's coming out at the cinema or on VOD. Myself and Boaz pick our favourite film from that topic, and we battle it out to decide which film will become the greatest film of all time, according to two film geeks from Wiltshire, England. If you enjoy this podcast, please leave us a review and subscribe. Hello, podsters. This week, as Morbius is out in cinemas, and we thought, you know what, let's do a podcast on good vampire films. Not to preempt anything, but yeah. We're doing an episode on vampire films. And this week we have guests, which is very exciting, from the World of Horror podcast. Hello, Mac and Christina. How are you? It's lovely to have you on.
Thanks for having us on, Martin.
Thank you.
Nice.
How are you?
I am very well. Thank you very well. And good news, people. I've managed to take Boaz's blindfold off, and unfortunately his eyes are now CGI. Yes, it's the Daywalker himself, Boaz Dix, so.
Yeah. I thirst for good movies, so let's carry on. I'm a creature of the mid-afternoon, so let's go.
Let's go. Should we do Let the Right One In first?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that would be good.
So, why did we pick this one, Boaz?
You picked this one.
Yeah.
I'm not like whatever. I enjoyed the film. That sounded very accusative, like I was accusing you. Sorry.
No. No, yeah, you didn't really have a choice in the matter, have you?
Yeah.
I thought because you guys picked it from the World of Horror, you picked like a really international film from Korea. So I thought, you know what, it'd be really cool to like pick another international one, not in the English language, from Sweden.
Yeah.
And we went with Let the Right One In, which is really great vampire horror movie.
Yeah, it is.
Directed by Thomas Alfredson. Yeah, I remember watching this when the DVD came out in like late 2008, I think, and remember loving it and weirdly not revisiting it since. I was like, that was awesome. And I didn't really rewatch it for some reason. So I thought, you know what? I remember this being amazing. Let's pick this one. And it still holds up. It is incredibly good. Christina and Mac, what are your initial thoughts on this one?
This is like a movie I grew up on, kind of. Well, how old was I, Mom, do you think, when we watched it?
I think it came out maybe 2009.
Oh, I don't know. Were you looking for confirmation?
Cast your
I got
mind
no
back.
idea. 2008 in cinema, 2009 on DVD, apparently.
Yeah, around like 8th grade or something. And then I read the book in college, and the book is really good too, though very not for the faint of heart, I guess, for many reasons. But yeah, I just love it. I think it's so horrible in a good way.
Nice. Yeah, I thought it's a sweet like coming of age / young love thing, but done with vampires and murder and all kinds of nastiness. So it's pretty cool.
But the backdrop is so lovely. It makes me want to go to Sweden. I don't know if I want to go to Sweden in the wintertime, but whoever was the DP on that, I love the way they shot it, because you can really feel how cold it is.
Yeah.
Not the first choice for a holiday destination necessarily.
No.
But yeah, it's got this incredible like dark tone. Yeah.
Well, I think what would have warmed them up is a sauna. Where are the saunas? I thought this is like the nation of sauna.
I expect they are.
Yeah. Just in between takes, they're in the sauna room.
Yeah. So Boaz, what happens in Let the Right One In?
There's a young 12-year-old boy called Oscar who's getting bullied at school, and he's kind of like self-conscious and stuff, doesn't have many friends. And he meets a girl outside who lives next door. So Eli, and she seems like a sweet little girl, same age as him. They get on amazingly, but she's a vampire. And her and her father figure or servant or whatever, are actually draining people in the neighborhood to sustain her. something goes wrong where one of the bodies is discovered, and the townspeople are all looking for a sort of little serial killer. And yeah, so you basically have this romance and this sort of almost kind of fugitive story where she's kind of trying to not get caught. Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I just adore this film, I must say. So directing then, a lot of the opening scenes felt very cold, and not because it's set in Sweden, but like the direction is not particularly very dramatic, like little to no suspense building, even when Hacken, Ellie's guardian, is spooked by a white dog while he's like strung someone up and literally draining his blood. You know, the camera just shows it and stays there. There's no like long tracking shot or anything. Then when we see Hacken in close up and Ellie is like really annoyed because he's not got her any blood and she's drifting in and out of shot and all blurry, the scene is short and the most unnerving at this point because she's annoyed and shouting. But the sound is really effective here. You can hear her breathing like from Ellie really clearly, like she's licking her lips as well, and there's a faint sound of her heartbeat and like what sounds like flowing water. You know, it's the first moment I felt quite uncomfortable watching this film. Like it's a very like slow burn at times, certainly in the beginning, but that scene was just like, ooh, this is, you know, starting to bubble here.
Well, there's something about seeing like a young child just like completely losing it at a guy, like an old man, and him just like taking it, that just feels wrong.
Yeah. Especially what was it? Oscar's got his like ear to the wall, and you know, probably his view is like maybe concern for her, but you know, she's actually the real, you know, threat here. You know, there's other kind of shots that I quite liked. I love the well, actually, when her guardian was strung up that guy in the locker room, I really like the whole suspense of that scene, especially as it's almost completely from his point of view. So, you know, the camera just like in the room with him as he's trying to work out how the hell am I going to get out of here?
He kind of gives up, doesn't he? He's just like, oh, I got no way out now. I'm screwed.
Yeah, I love the bit where he kind of goes close to the window and the other guy is like at the window, but they don't like make it a big deal. They don't like do some sort of close-up cut or some cut from the other end or whatever. It's still from his point of view, just like, oh shit, this is a problem. And you know, he gives up and tries to kill himself with acid and stuff. I do like how also the camera tends to veer. So even you know, when they've set up stuff, the camera tends to move to points of interest, like flow. So I kind of like that. You know, when Hacken was kind of getting everything ready for the stringing up he was going to do, and the camera's going to his tools and to the bucket and just everything, but it's doing it so sort of gradually as to not be like distracting.
Very understated.
Yeah, it's understated, but it's like, you should pay attention to this. It's like little nudges. And it does that throughout the film, and that's something that I kind of appreciated. It's like, yep, look at this, look at that. Even when he spills the acid, it's like, oh yeah, shit, that's acid. Okay, what's he going to do with it? He's going to pour it on his face. Well, you know, that's acid. So it always kind of frames everything up. There are so many examples of it doing this. Also, you know, when she attacks the guy under the underpass. There's all kinds of just the camera sort of just flowing and just pointing you in the right direction, but not like doing too many cuts or being too quick or being too distracting. And I just thought that's kind of an interesting filming technique, more sort of subtle and muted. Another shot I really liked is when he was in the hospital, like her guardian, and she asks because that like surprised me and I had to go back a bit because I just like the setup of it. She asks and then she disappears and the nurse comes running after her, and it's a wide shot of the outside of the building. You can't really see anything, like it's pretty dark. And she can't find her, and then she runs back inside, and then she starts clambering up the wall, and I just saw her from the corner of my eye. I was like, holy shit. So I rewound. I was like, oh my god, she was there all the time.
I also was going to mention her scrambling up the hospital, the outside of the hospital. I love that so much. And she attacks this guy, Yoka, under the underpass, but then Hacken takes his body and sort of dumps it in the water, and it's discovered by these children who are having a field trip. And they have to use a chainsaw to get him out of the water because he's frozen completely stiff. And he's attached to this like slab of ice. And I just love that whole part where they're taking him out of the water and all these kids are just sort of milling around, and it's horrifying. And just so good.
Yeah.
There's a brilliant moment of shock and gore at the hospital, which is really well done after Ellie gets to the top at the window. But then when Hacken comes to the window, the reflection on one side of his face is concealed in shadow. But when he turns to check the door, you can see very, very small details about what that side of his face looks like, but not much at all, as if you're like not going to see it. And then when Ellie prepares to feed on Hacken, you think that's going to be like the shock moment, because we get into like a closer shot and like, oh, okay, let's prepare for her sucking his blood. But then boom, like the reverse angle, and you suddenly see Hacken's grotesque face. It's just really well crafted, that, and it still keeps this very like quiet, understated tone to the whole film. And as you said, Boaz, before that brilliant moment of Ellie coming out of the shadows that precedes that was just so well done, I thought.
The lady that she bites and she starts to turn into a vampire,
Virginia.
Yeah. So I like most of that, like, her as she's transforming, she doesn't know what's going on. And also, cats attacking her. I mean, that was something I wasn't expecting. I was like, what the hell?
I wasn't sure about that.
Yeah.
Back in the day, that was great CGI.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've talked about this in like animals and CGI, and I can't remember if we gave somewhat of a pass to The Day After Tomorrow because of the wolves, because like they look good at the time, but then you're like, they just look off. I can't,
Yeah.
I mean, animals are hard; they're difficult. But I think my favorite part, direction-wise, is actually her death. I just think that's set up really well. And it just looks phenomenal. Like, I've never seen a vampire react to sunlight like that. Like, usually it's ash, or maybe they go on fire. I've seen, like, their skin peels off. There are many, many different ways it's happened. But the fact that, like, she literally goes off like a nuclear bomb. Like, she is like a flamethrower coming out of her. It just won't stop. It's absolutely crazy. And I love that. It's just, like, licking up the walls. It's on the roof. And everybody's scrambling around, like, what the hell? That really took me back, because I was like, holy shit. Yeah, it's like these vampires are made out of kerosene or something.
But because of this, like, very understated tone, it's just very matter of fact, because there's not really any suspense building.
No.
It's just like, yep, she's on fire now. Look it.
Yeah.
It looks awesome.
Because the rules. You're like, okay, she's going to burn, she's going to turn to dust. And the camera doesn't make a big deal of it. So it's kind of interesting that the camera doesn't make a big deal of most of the things. It just lets the action sort of speak for itself. But yeah, she goes up and the camera's just like, yep, she's on fire. I was like, holy shit. It's not something I was expecting.
Yeah, it's heightened like a bit with music, but that's all there is. The imagery that's shown is just enough. That's all you kind of need to get maximum impacts.
I would say the only kind of series of shots where I think it kind of does it makes it better because they edit it around, rather than have some sort of just do the regular static cam. And I think because it happens so very few times, like I quite liked it, is where it basically looks around her body as she's like bleeding intensely. Because at first it's like, it just keeps it static and she's bleeding on the back. And you're like, what the hell? Then it's like a cut to the face. It's like, what the shit? And it is and stuff. And she's just bleeding. It's like, what the hell? But yeah, that was a pretty good scene.
I really just do like the ending. I feel like the end shots obviously are so, I like just particularly like the feet going across the surface of the water that you see like at an angle. Like, I don't know, that's like forever imprinted into my brain. Then at the end, when we see Oscar, like, we don't see any of that because he's just looking at Eli and like, okay, he's safe, and I feel like he's already kind of made a conscious decision to forget about the fact that this is a really bad idea to be going into servanthood for a vampire. But it also has this weird hopeful feeling when he's like looking up at her through the water. So I just love that.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I would say, my favorite shot 100% is the last shot. And I was actually going to say that. Yeah. And when he's being held under the water, I thought that was just brilliantly composed. It was just quite entertaining. It's like you're seeing you're seeing like the carnage, but from under the water, and you're just getting little bits of, I also like the fact that the hand that's holding him under towards the end of the scene just falls off, just flops down. That was really good. That was an effective scene. It kind of it awed me and it made me chuckle at the same time, which is kind of grim.
Yeah, you're right.
Also, because it's kids, but it works in a way.
It is kids, yeah. You're like, I think it works. I think it's kind of mixed feelings. Like, this is gory, but he's being saved.
Definitely not a good end for him.
Yeah, proper brutal.
What about the kid who's left to just sob, in the stands? All these bodies, all around the pool.
How's he going to explain this?
I know.
He's fucked for life.
Yeah, he's just not. Send him away.
Yeah, short 12-year-old girl, like, crack these boys in half.
Yeah, you're crazy, dude.
They're going to think it's a bear or something. Like, there's no... Yeah, exactly. There's no way in hell a person did this.
I just love the efficiency of that scene as well. It's just the attack is just like 2 shots. That's it. One under the water and then the big wide shot outside of the pool, just showing all the blood and carnage. It's just beautifully efficient and that's all you need sometimes. Yeah. Just 2 really nice wide shots.
Okay, least favorite shot, I have to say.
We don't like to be negative.
I want to. This is my only negative because it scarred me for life. But I did not need to see her vagina like that.
Okay,
that was pretty fucking like out of nowhere. I was like, well, it wasn't out of nowhere. I mean, he crushes on her hard, and I get that in the mind of a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
And he sneaks a look while she's dressing, but that's something I could have really done without seeing.
I mean, obviously they can't, in a movie, explain absolutely everything that happens in the novel, but I will say, this, I believe, was an attempt at the fact that, Eli is really, really old, is a vampire, was turned into a vampire, and has made the conscious decision to, 1, be gender doesn't matter to me, and 2, be if I'm a young girl, is easier. And in her backstory, she was castrated and stuff and all these things. And I just feel like there could have been a better way to show that in the movie than zoom in and then zoom in on Oscar being like, whoa, it just felt really goofy to me.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
You were just supposed to be whoa, what a freak, which is not the point to me.
Yeah.
Well, Oscar is kind of a freak, isn't he?
Well, no, but I mean, he's saying, I think, to her, his...
Oh, I see.
Well, his face is just so oh gosh, but then there's no follow-up in that. Whereas in the novel, we at least get her, so we know what the point is. But if you were watching this movie, didn't know anything about the story, you'd just be like, what?
Yeah. No, it was one of those where I'm like, Jesus Christ, am I on a register? Are the fucking FBI watching me? What's this? I was like, turn it off, burn it, burn the computer, burn the building to the ground.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's something I could have done without. But other than that,
fair enough.
Really, really good. Yeah.
Christina, what's your favorite shot in the movie or favorite scene for you?
I do like the sequence where I think it's Laka, the friend, is starting to cotton on that, there's something weird going on with this kid. And it's also about the same time that Oscar, I think, has gotten off the fence and he's decided he's going to be with her. But Laka comes to the apartment and finds her in the bathtub, is going to expose her to the sunlight. And Oscar averts that. And then she attacks that guy and he just closes the door.
Yeah.
And I just love that. So you do your thing.
That was really good. Especially because his arm darts out and it's blood and it's
Yeah.
Enjoy your food.
He's really signed it. He's really all right, I guess I'm cool with this.
That's my favorite scene as well. When Oscar leaves the door ajar and you only see a little bit of what's happening and you can only really hear the killing, and it just makes the guy's bloody arm quite shocking when it pops out. What's so impressive that I feel like the film has earned this slow progression in its suspense building through the movie and has new license to push the boat out, as it were, in the suspense at this point, but still keeping this understated tone and letting the actors do a lot of the storytelling. But what's even more impressive is that it doesn't dwell on what's just happened. We move on quickly to this very like heartwarming moment where Ellie and Oscar have their first kiss. The music especially drives this, you know, melancholic emotions into like the next scenes when Ellie says she has to go. Just like incredible filmmaking for me. Just this understated tone, and still in that like a murder scene. Yeah, there is just a really nice stylized sense of camera movement that is earned, but again, like not being sentimental. Like we got to move on as well, you know. And I love that. I thought it was amazing.
I think it's just the end I really love, and I do like the very ending scene as well. When again, because to me the story is just so fascinating, because it's the end is presented as such a sweet thing when actually it's quite horrible and like quite sad if you think about this life Oscar's about to lead. Because he's just going to become the guy who burned his face off with acid, and but that it's presented as so like, oh, the two of them.
Oh, I'm going to abduct people for you and feed them to you.
Yeah, and like kill on your behalf, and I'm going to get old, and you're going to stay a 9-year-old girl.
Yeah, this is weird.
And I feel like the movie, in the same way it doesn't dwell on like gore and stuff, part of the great horror of it too is just the way it just, I guess like the realization and like the cognitive dissonance between like what, you know, Oscar wants and what, you know, is probably best for him. I feel like that's all really presented nicely in the final scene.
So, World of Horror, what are you going for directing scores?
I think this is directed pretty well. What do you think, Mac, in the 8s or the 9s?
8 and 9 is so similar. Like, because to me, like 3 and 4, all right, that's a big difference. 8 and 9, I'm like, well, what's that big of a difference between 8 and 9? So 8.5.
Okay.
Halfway house. Okay. Are you good with that, Christina?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, 8.5.
I think this is an exceptional piece of work.
Yeah, I think it's done masterfully. It's kind of almost like, you know, a masterpiece, like a painting.
Yeah,
I'd go pretty damn high. What do you think about 9?
I want to go 9s.
Yeah, I want to go 9 as well.
9.2.
We officially change ours to 9.3.
You can change it if you want. Boaz does it all the time, so you know.
Yeah, I do it all the time. I'm so indecisive.
Let's go 9.1. Shall we?
How about 9.9? 9.0? 9, 4, 9, 5. 5.
9.
Final offer. No, I'm joking.
9.3, but repeating.
Yeah. Point, you know, pi. 9 point pi. There we go.
Shut up. All right. Screenplay then. Who wants to kick us off with what they like about the screenplay for Let the Right One In?
Mac, I think you should, because you've read the novel, so maybe you have some insight to share on the script.
I do think they do it well, because there's less scenes in the movie, obviously, because there has to be, but the dialogue is pretty much beyond whatever the narrator describes as the background or backstory. There isn't actually much like spoken between the characters, so it's a lot of, and I think rather than doing that with like a forced narrator, it was good that they went for this environmental storytelling more so. And like you were saying, like the very, because that's how the book is too. It's just, this is just how it is. Like, it's not good or bad. It's just, this is a 9-year-old vampire. What happens? And yeah, I think, I don't know. I love their dialogue between each other. I love that great line, like, will you be my girlfriend? And she says, I'm not a girl. And like, there's so many meanings within that, because it's like, she's not a girl. She's a 900-year-old vampire. That's like so far beyond what he's thinking he's asking for. And I just love that she's so kind to him in a way, because she's kind of like, come on, you don't want to do this.
Yeah, you don't want to get involved with this.
She says she's not a girl, and he just goes, oh, well, do you want to go study anyway?
Yeah.
He just loves her. He's so lonely.
Yeah.
And that's so sad too. This movie feels so lonely.
Yeah. I thought it was really cute the first time he just hugged her, just out of, nowhere, and she's a bit taken aback, like, what are you doing? It's like, I like you. It's like, okay. Would you like me if I wasn't a girl? It's like, yeah, I suppose, But I like that. It's a kind of cute awkwardness.
It's interesting, like, the way Eli's story starts with the fact that her first proper scene is just like a blurry shot of the back of her head being pissed at Hacken for not getting her blood, which is how you would expect a vampire to react when they're denied blood. Obviously, I've seen lots of vampires around, but you know, when she resorts to crying for help and drinks like a random guy's blood.
Yeah, especially in your neighborhood, dude.
They're everywhere.
Horrible, decrepit freaks that eat blood. Yeah, don't say that to their face, though.
When she resorts to crying for help and like drinking a random guy's blood under the bridge, and she ends up like snapping the guy's neck, you know, she lets her head fall into his chest and suggests she really doesn't want to drink this way, you know, having to kill people, and she hates like who she is in a way. And a very lost character, I feel, Eli is, you know. But with Oscar, he doesn't hate who he is. He enjoys like making like scrapbooks about like murders and describes something bloody in class in one particular scene, but he knows no one like himself. He gets bullied, you know. There's a strange sense of innocence to Oscar, especially when he's like talking to a tree and pretending to knife someone.
Yeah.
But you know, he would never do such a thing at this point in the story. So it's just kind of an interesting way both characters are kind of set up, yet we've hardly seen Ellie, yet she has such a huge presence in the story.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point about her putting her head on Yoka's chest. Just like, oh man, like, because the hunger seems to come over her like it does with a lot of vampires. And, you know, it's a need at that point, but it is disgusting and horrible that she has to kill people, but that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
She almost kills him when he tries to do like a blood pact like with her.
Yes.
And she's like, what the hell are you doing? And she starts, I like that, where she just drops to the floor and drinks what's dripping on the floor and is like, get away now. But sounds more kind of less human and more bestial. You know, I think this is where he gets the first idea of what the hell, you know, this is not a regular a relationship. But yeah, you know, so you could tell she has like, she's sort of struggling with this. So she is humanized by her kind of reluctance to do this, but this is what she's got to do to stay alive.
Yeah, I do feel like Eli is more of the scared character in this film compared to Oscar. They both have a lot of innocence in this film, but obviously Oscar's innocence is a tiny bit more relatable than Eli's. She has no one, especially after Hacken dies. Like, Oscar is like the only one she can turn to, really. I do get the sense that she's just very lonely and very scared of what people think of her, especially Oscar. In that moment of what you're talking about, as in that particular moment, I feel like Eli is the most scared there, not Oscar necessarily.
Yeah, quite interesting.
I just love how like Oscar brings out the innocence of Ellie's character with like the cute scene where Oscar teaches Ellie about like Morse code through the wall in their building when they could just talk to each other in the park, you know. But Ellie telling Oscar how she did the Rubik's Cube and the fact that Ellie is willing to try Oscar's sweets even though she knows it won't end well. But it's like Ellie is trying them for Oscar, and it's like she's thinking, just this one time I might not throw up, you know, but of course she does. And it's just, Eli is just trying desperately to be more human and wanting Oscar to like her, you know, throughout this film.
There's so many layers when you then think of what her relationship must be with, I forgot his name, but, you know, the guy that was being her kind of caretaker before, because it's, I think, suggested in the film, but I just know from the story that he was doing it because he was like a pedophile and like constantly was trying to be physical with her, and she'd be like, no, like, well, you got to do this first, you got to do this. And so even though this guy's willing to like burn his face off or whatever and kill people for her, their relationship obviously isn't good. Like, they're not having fun. She's, you know, they're just kind of surviving.
Yeah, they're not equals. They're not,
Yeah, and whereas like Oscar, obviously, because he is an actual child, like, you know, has just real pure feelings for her, just likes her for who she is. And I think she wants to like chase that feeling rather than just existing day to day and using somebody who maybe once really loved her in some way, but now also he appears to be just like, fuck my life, you know?
There's a really interesting dynamic, like after the scene where Oscar cuts his hand and Ellie drinks the blood and runs off scared. The dynamic changes. When Oscar sees Ellie again, he finds like stolen money that he thinks Ellie killed to get it. And, Oscar is not entirely convinced, in my opinion, that she's a vampire or just still trying to work out, who she is. And then when Oscar seems to be proud of the fact that he's injured the bully, Ellie says so sincerely, "You have to invite me in." But Oscar wants to play with her like a bully would and makes her walk through the door uninvited. Again, not fully convinced she's a vampire. Then obviously Ellie starts bleeding and Oscar immediately regrets it. And later he says, like, "I didn't kill people." But Ellie says, "No, but you like to, if you could, to get revenge, right? I do it because I have to. Be me for a while. Please be me for a while." There's like a subtle change in what would be her older self, but it's like she's really begging Oscar just to accept who she is. And it's just, I kind of like the fact that, Oscar took on board earlier in the film that Ellie was like, well, just hit back to the bullies, and he's taking that on board and like, look, I've hit back, and she just ignores him and just wants to listen to the music. And after that scene, and it's just really interesting that Oscar just has doubts whether she's just a really weird child or or a vampire. I know she's like a really old woman, as you were saying, Mac, but I don't know, is she kind of like just really trying to grasp of that childlike feeling again to you?
That's the thing, is I think that's what makes her a great character, is that
she's jumping back and forth, isn't she? I feel sometimes.
Well, I feel like she's just a bit of both. It's like she's never like your brain. I mean, I don't know vampire biology, but it's like your brain isn't fully developed until you're older, and she is in a kid body. Like she's never gone through puberty or anything like that. But she's been that way for hundreds of years.
Like ancient wisdom, but still immature because she still hasn't like fully developed mentally.
And I feel like that's why she says I'm not a girl, because she's just like, I'm not anything anybody's ever seen before. Like, there's only her, really, I think, in this existence or in this universe of this movie. So I think she is confused while also being wise. A kid who seems some shit.
Yeah. She hasn't been treated like a 12-year-old in a very long time, like maybe 50 or 60 years, or I don't know when that guy came into her life. Maybe not that long, but 30 or 40 years probably. And so Boaz was saying, like, when Oscar hugs her, she doesn't know what to do with that. Probably she hasn't been touched, in an affectionate way in a very long time. So that's very sweet. I mean, I think it's weird to think of a monster as sweet, but I think she is.
Vampires need love too.
Yeah.
Vampire loving rights.
That's why I kind of think like the vampire genre is such a great horror genre, because it can be molded into kind of so many different things, and certainly this type of like coming of age, the outsider being very lonely and wanting love and trying to deal with that, being the freak type character is just really interesting. You don't see that very often with a lot of vampire films. It's either like about, and there's a lot of themes in terms of that in your pick as well. I think there's lots of different ones with the fact that Blade is just a kick-ass action film, and there's a lot of ones that deal with addiction and things like that, and this one, both of them just feel very different in terms of like, hang on, why don't we just tackle this vampire theme as like the outsider, and this one, it mixes that with coming of age as well. So it's really beautifully done. Any favorite lines, people?
I've got one when Laka and Yoka split for the night just before Yoka is killed under the bridge. One of them says, "Thanks for yet another evening steeped in friendship and merriment."
I love that line too.
That's good. I like when he beats up that bully. Doesn't he say something like he wants him to squeal like a pig or something? I can't remember, when he's screaming his head off.
When he hits him in the ear?
Yeah, I think it was something like that. And he's like, squeal like a piggy or something. It was pretty badass. Kid deserved it. He was a piece of shit. When, asked how old Ellie was, I think it's the first time he meets her. and she says, "I'm 12, but I've been 12 a long time." I mean, that's ominous.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's really ominous.
Classic.
Yeah, if somebody said that to you, you'd be like, "What the hell are you talking about?" But it's pretty ominous, and it's a really good line, especially one of the first lines uttered by a character. Yeah, so maybe I'd pick that one.
I think my one is kind of a really absurd but charming one in a funny way from Ellie when Oscar comes to her apartment and she says, "See that egg over there? If you sold it, you could buy a whole nuclear power plant for real."
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
I thought that was just really charming because, like, why are you thinking of a power plant for something to buy? It's a bit weird, but it's kind of cute in a weird way.
It would either be her saying "I'm not a girl," or honestly, like, this isn't a line, but when Oscar tells her to come in and he does that like noise, I just find that so like upsetting, but in a way that again, like, just in a way that the movie's upsetting, but I like that. Where it just you're like, "Oh, don't make her do this. What are you doing?"
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Yeah, he is a bit of a dick in that point. I'm just like, stop it. Stop being mean.
I think it's very real that, I don't know, at the first time that he's got a position of power over somebody, like, that's the first thing he goes to is like letting out this like anger and like on her. But then when he sees like her bleeding from her eyeballs, I think, he then feels bad.
Yeah.
The bullies are something else, because I was thinking about like the basic antagonists. Jesus Christ, they are something else. They are like some of the worst human beings ever. I think kind of like, one of the few times you do not feel bad that a room full of kids just got slaughtered. You're like, they all sucked.
Yeah, it's a weird feeling.
Yeah. You're like, dude, those are the evilest kids I've ever met.
Yeah, they deserved it, even though they're only children.
Yeah. They deserved worse.
I was like, you were about to like drown him. I mean, mostly the older brother. He was the worst one. Because they were kind of like, "Hey, are you about to kill this kid in front of all of us?"
Yeah, because even the younger bully, like, he was a dick, and he would always like poke Oscar, and he got his friends to like whip him, and you could tell they're all very reluctant to do that. It's like positions of power forcing people to do what they don't want to do. But even like his older brother, who is a flat out psychopath, Oscar sees him like basically just come out of nowhere and attack his younger brother, and then just pull him up and it's fine. But he's like an abusive piece of shit. That's probably why the kid is bullying Oscar all the time.
We all need an Ellie in our life.
Yeah.
Just, to call upon.
Yeah, to discipline us by ripping our arms off.
Yes.
There will be peace in the world.
World of Horror, what is your score for screenplay? What you going for?
Gonna do.
What do you think, Mom?
9.2.
I co-sign.
Ooh,
that's pretty high.
I know it's high. Is it too high?
No. I mean,
I like it. I like it.
There are no right answers in like the game of review. You
what?
Whatever you feel is right for you.
Well, one thing, Mac and I were talking a little bit beforehand, and the dialogue is great.
Yeah, it is pretty good. Yeah.
But there's also a lot of stuff that's like not spoken in both this movie and our choice. And I think that's great. I don't know if you would place that in the script portion or the direction portion, but
I think you definitely do, because I think a lot of people take for granted that with writers, they're like, oh yeah, their job is just to write dialogue. But no, they write the whole thing. They have to write scenes with no dialogue at all. That's their job.
It's the director to sort of work out how that's going to be conveyed, but it's the writer who has to sort of set up this streamline. So you can put it on both of them, really.
So you're going with 9.2?
You okay with that, Mac?
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Baz, what should we go for? I don't know. It's hard.
I think I actually prefer the directing to the writing, but only slightly.
Yeah, I do as well.
Only slightly.
Okay.
So I think I would give it a really high 8.
8.9?
Yeah, I mean, we could do... I was thinking 8.8, but we could do 8.9. 8.9 would be fine.
Okay,
Yeah.
I just feel like the directing is just so beautifully done, in my opinion, that it just slightly goes above screenplay for me. Right. Acting, then. I really like the scene where the bullies stop Oscar outside the school, and the first kid is like whipping Oscar with a stick, and he starts crying while he's doing it. But Oscar just takes it, and another kid whips Oscar across the face, and you can clearly read across his face that he doesn't want to do it at all. And again, Oscar just takes it and tries really hard not to react. it just makes Oscar like really likable, which is fairly early on in the movie. And the fact that he's not giving anything to these bullies emotionally is just kind of really satisfying to watch. It gets you right on board with Oscar's character for me, and I just really like that bit. After Ellie throws up, there's a brilliant realization moment from Lena Leenderson, who plays Ellie, and where Ellie's like, oh shit, Oscar actually really likes me, and at some point she's going to have to tell Oscar she's a vampire, and she's just so worried that he will freak out, and then they have like a brilliantly awkward hug, as we've spoken about, and asks, do you like me? And he just says, yeah, a lot. If I wasn't a girl, would you like me anyway? And Oscar says, I suppose so. It's just brilliant acting from Ellie when Oscar asks, why do you ask? And her face is so innocent, and she's like, I really don't know if I should tell you the truth. And she's quite scared, and I feel in that moment as well. It's just a brilliant scene.
Yeah, I think it's good acting on her part, because I think it complements with the fact that at the beginning she's really stoic and very sort of direct and kind of not that emotional. That anytime there are hints that break through, that actually no, she's a person under there, and she can feel, you kind of just sense it in her, that actually no, she's a bit sad, or she's a bit lonely, or she's in love. It kind of breaks through. I kind of like that.
Yeah.
So it's the fact that she's trying not to put all her cards on the table, but you feel it coming out. It feels more natural. So I think she does a good job conveying that.
Such a brilliant actress, I find.
I like the kid who plays Oscar too. And this whole section when he goes to visit his dad, to me, is really heartbreaking, especially when the friends come over and the dad decides to, drink beers with them, and the kid is sort of put on the back burner, and there's no dialogue. He just, with his face, you can just tell that he's crestfallen and he's disappointed, and he just wants to spend time with his dad. And I think that's conveyed really well. I think the caretaker is great too.
Yeah, he was really good as well. I think he was really good. Yeah, I think a lot of the cast, even a lot of the side characters, I think their performance was believable. It wasn't like even people that weren't in the film that long, they didn't phone it in. Like they do feel like they're real people and they're acting as best they can, which is still pretty good. So I would say the guy that even goes to work out what's going on, like his friend has been killed and his girlfriend has been killed, and he's trying to work out what the fuck is going on. I thought he did a pretty damn good job of just like a confused drunk who's like, what on earth is going on? I thought even he did a bloody good job, and he's like a bit character who's trying to work what's up. I thought he did a good job. I even thought his girlfriend did a good job. I thought a lot of the actors, they picked some pretty good talent who can emote incredibly convincingly. I don't recall even seeing, even all the children I think were pretty good, even all the bullies. I don't think there's like a standout one where you go, they didn't, convey what they were meant to convey. It's like, I think they picked a pretty good cast. I would say, obviously standout are the main kids, Oscar and Ellie, but I think the whole cast is pretty good. I think they did a good job just picking everybody.
I think one of my favorite moments is from Ellie when Hacken asks, could you do one thing for me? Could you not see that boy tonight, please? And all Ellie does is just caress Hacken's cheek and with hardly any expression on her face, and does this tiny like she's pitying him, like she thinks it's cute that he thinks he's got control over her. Even Hacken's reaction is really interesting. He looks like slightly scared but snaps out of it like quite quickly. It's certainly kind of weird from his side of things in the performance, like the way he just snaps out. I was just like, well, that was weird. It's kind of like he just gets on with it, and like it's like she does this a lot to him. He's like, oh, please don't kill me, please don't kill me. Oh god, it's gone now. Right, let's just find a way to get some more blood for her.
I think he's a really interesting character in the fact that he doesn't really say a great deal, but you definitely can see what he's thinking and feeling. He emotes with his face pretty well. Yeah, so he was an interesting character. He was good. He was great to watch.
Favorite performance, Boaz? What are you going for?
I think I'll go for No, I think I'll go for Ellie. Actually, I'll go for Ellie.
Christina?
Yeah, same. Because somebody already mentioned it, that she's very different in the beginning, and the end of the film. Yeah, think she does a great job. I looked her up, and she's, I think, in a theater school, but she hasn't done a whole lot since.
She's too busy drinking blood.
Yeah. Yeah, mine's the same. I'm going for Lena Linderson. I think that's how you pronounce it. Who plays Ellie. Yeah, I think she's just quite a remarkable young actress. Just so subtle with her acting. Yes, I'll go for her. Acting score, Boaz, what shall we go for?
Oh, man. Where should we go with this?
I think high 8s as well. 8.9 again? Or
Yeah, I'm trying to think, man. Or 8.8, maybe?
Okay, let's go 8.8. I know I've said in the past on this pod that I'm not a huge fan of child acting. It can be a bit annoying, but
no, seriously, because in a lot of films that I've watched and that we've even done, like, the kids can be incredibly distracting. I think this is also something I didn't really mention on when we did Bird Box. It pisses me off because I didn't mention it then, but I wasn't a fan of the kids. Okay. I was like, they are clearly kids, trying to act. And
I literally don't even remember what they look like, to be honest.
Yeah, but it was like the kids were just kids. They weren't like acting kids; they were kids, and
just such an afterthought.
And they were really distracting because you're meant to be terrified, kid. You don't look terrified. It's really quite annoying. So children are kind of, they're very difficult to work with, obviously. But the kids here are really good.
But here, they're amazing.
They're incredible. So I don't know what the hell they feed their kids in Sweden, like acting juice. I don't know, the blood of some muse, but they're pretty good.
Yeah, all casting directors should cast kids from Sweden.
Exactly. And just all the kids in every country in whatever. If it's set in New York, all the kids have Swedish accents. If it's England, all the kids are Swedes. I wouldn't mind.
I would say 9, just to make it simple for acting.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Right, let's add up the scores then for Let the Right One In.
We got these things called calculators, Martin.
Yeah, I'm doing it now.
Put your abacus down, for God's sake. Hurry up.
I like abacuses. Shut up. Let the Right One In gets 53.6.
Wow.
That is pretty damn high, yeah.
That's pretty high.
Although, I do like it. I do love it. I think it was a good film.
Good choice, you guys.
So, World of Horror, what is your pick for vampire films?
Our pick is Thirst, which is a Park Chan-wook film from 2009.
Awesome.
And we're big Park Chan-wook fans over here, so
Cool.
This was pretty easy. We start with Sang-hyun, who's a Catholic priest, and he feels powerless, like he's not doing enough in the world, so he volunteers to help discover a vaccine for this deadly Emmanuel virus. He becomes infected with the virus and he needs a blood transfusion. He dies, but then he revives, and then we find out that the blood he received was from a vampire. So he is now turning into a vampire. There's this cult that springs up all around him. They sort of come and go into his life, but he, as a result of that cult, reconnects with some old friends, some friends from his childhood. And he realizes that if he drinks human blood, the symptoms of the virus go away. And he also becomes very attracted to his childhood friend's wife. And they start up a relationship because she hates her life and she hates her husband and her mother-in-law. And Sang-hyun wants to run away with her, but she's like, how about if we kill my husband? So they do that, and the mother falls into this sort of catatonic state after her son dies, and Taeju asks to be killed by our main character, and he does that, but then he brings her back to life.
Yeah.
So, and then hijinks ensue from that point on.
Why did you pick Thirst?
I kind of like the struggle in the Catholic priest.
Yeah.
He's I guess like so good in the beginning, but he becomes tainted with this blood and his character completely changes. And that's really kind of fun to watch. It is, I think, somewhat romantic.
Yeah.
But we also see the transformation of the other woman, and it's not as sweet. So I like that too, that not everybody's going to transform in exactly the same way.
Yeah. Were there any other movies in contention that didn't make the cut, kind of thing?
I mean, this was the one that kind of sprang immediately to mind.
Yeah.
I like Fright Night 85,
Okay.
but I don't think Mac's seen that one.
I have. I think I've seen that movie.
Oh, yeah?
hmm
That was one that I watched a lot. So I like that one too. And Blade 2,
Oh,
I
yeah,
think, is
yeah.
also
Blade.
really good.
Can't beat Guillermo del Toro.
You obviously do not know who you are fucking with. That was Wesley.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was good.
Yeah, very good.
Thirst and Boaz. Like it? Hate it?
Oh no, I loved it. Yeah, I thought it was great.
Yeah.
I think when you said like they picked a Korean film called Thirst, I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. And then I had flashbacks because I remember seeing the trailers for this on Film 4, and I remember they were, they put it on one time, and I think I just saw the ending, and I was very intrigued by that because I was like, oh, that's a film I really wanted to watch all the way through. It's kind of surprising out of all these films. But, it kind of shows that it is still a good film if, like, I saw a bit of it at some point many years ago, and, my memory immediately harkened back. But, yeah, the idea is pretty interesting to have, like, a devoted Catholic priest who's trying to live the ascetic lifestyle and, swear off pleasures of the flesh. And he becomes a vampire, with everything that entails. Not only the blood sucking and the hunger and all that, but also, like, he becomes a lot more depraved, a lot more, horny and just not moral, and he's really struggling with that. And I think that is that's a great idea for a film, like just, as a concept. And I think even beyond just a concept as a film, it's done really well. Yeah. So I did enjoy it.
Yeah, for me, this is not what I was expecting at all. I thought, this is kind of like an addiction film, that kind of theme with vampires. And I wasn't expecting it to be kind of fairly similar to Let the Right One In, but just in a really funny way. I didn't expect this to be hilarious at times.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, at times it is genuinely quite funny, and then at other times it's like it's pretty kind of disturbing what goes on.
Really brutal, and like whoa.
Yeah, it's really brutal sometimes, and then kind of like sad, and then sort of romantic. There are bits that I'm not completely sold on. I will get like more into detail where I'm just like, this is too weird, because some bits are like really, really quite like psychologically like what the hell, So, but I'll get to that.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of stuff in this film. It really is. Yeah, it does feel like it's a film like full to the brim with stuff where you think, I'm coming in for a vampire movie. It's like, no, you're not. He's just putting everything in there. It's quite interesting there.
I really like how a lot of Korean movies, and Park Chan-wook especially, a lot of the characters or a lot of the like themes that they talk about are nothing that has like necessarily like a very like nostalgic or cheesy moral. It's like people just do dumb things, or some things are funny, but it's not like cause sometimes I really struggle with horror comedies. Like they just don't usually don't make me laugh. But I think movies like this are so good when they're absurd and just funny, because that's just how like life is. Like that's like, if you've dropped all your groceries and then you got into a car accident and then you broke your leg, you might just like laugh at the end of the day, just be like, what is my luck? And I feel like,
exactly.
Yeah, this movie does a lot of that.
It does feel like there's a lot of real situations that you kind of, that you would experience in life just generally.
Yeah.
And that's how the humor comes through, I think, in this film,
Yeah. And I think I love that there are characters that, because I think Park Chan-wook just does a great job of having a character that is not a good person, not great, like doesn't like is by all terms like an asshole, and yet they're still enjoyable to watch.
Yeah.
And you still know that what they're doing is wrong. It's like a lot of the characters aren't like good people. Like Taiju, is the first chance she gets to be powerful, she uses it to hurt people. Like that's obviously not good, but I know why she's doing it, and I still love her.
Yeah.
And it's captivating in that way.
She loves being a vampire. She really does.
Yes.
So let's get right into it then with directing. Like the film has quite a quiet start, I would say.
Yeah, I think that's what really took me back.
But the pace is still pretty quick, establishing the characters like Sang Hyun, played by Kang Song, who is a priest and signs up to to this like vaccine medical experiment, and the virus has begun to like take hold. And there's a scene where Sang Hyun is in his room, and there's, you know, a horrible looking centipede. I hate centipedes, so that was kind of horrible for me. And he's pulling nails off of his fingers. I would literally rather watch him pulling nails off his fingers than watch the centipedes. You know, that's kind of me.
Okay. I know what horror film to make to scare the shit out of you now. Centipede Man. Yep. I'm going to do this.
I did write that joke in, but I was like, no, I'm cutting that.
Yeah, I'm going to collect thousands of centipedes. We're making another film, Martin. We're making another film. I'm directing this time.
Well, I ain't doing
You're
it.
acting. Yeah. You cover me in cream, I'll cover you in centipedes. That sounds really that sounds really wrong if taken out of context.
Yeah. Yeah, don't listen halfway through.
I'll leave that to the listener's imagination. Yeah, I won't. Yeah.
There's a scene where Sang Hyun, and he's pulling like fingernails off of his fingers, warts everywhere on his face, and you think that's the disturbing moment of the scene. But then later he's playing like a recorder, a woodwind type musical instrument, and you're like, oh, this is pleasant. Then all of a sudden he's coughing up blood down the recorder, and it comes out, you know, everywhere. It's just blood everywhere, and the shots are very tight, and it's just very gruesome. I was like, oh, I did not expect that. Again, similar to like the Let the Right One In, very understated to begin with, but obviously the rest of the film kind of goes very crazy.
Yeah, definitely. I would say, like, when it comes to camera work, I think this is kind of the opposite of Let the Right One In. It's like the cameraman goes mental in this film. Like, he is doing stuff every other second. But the bit that kind of shocked me is I think I must have been expecting that, you know, because I must have, you know, remembered trailers. And the first 10 minutes really took me back, because I was like, it just felt like it was like a made-for-TV movie, but like not the ones you get now, like really old, where the camera is just like a static cam and stuff is happening, and they will go way outside of the cam. So you're like, what kind of cheap movie is this? Like, the camera's there, and he's having a talk with his mentor in the wheelchair, and he goes all the way over there, and it's still recording them. I'm like, are you going to make any cuts in this film? Like, there are very, very few cuts. Even starts in a hospital where this guy is saying a really weird dream he's had, had. And you just have this, you know, static camera in the room. And I'm like, this is very oddly paced and very oddly done. But then I kind of get it, because as soon as, like, he gets, you know, taken by that illness and, you know, he vomits down the recorder, and then it's like cut city. It's like, finally, a close-up, you know, stuff's going wrong. He's on the bed like, oh my God, I'm a bit dizzy. Like, the camera's doing everything. And I think it makes, it's just a simple thing like that, a close-up, a cut, you know, which are just kind of mundane, you know, things that you should just do in a movie. The fact that it hasn't been done for the first 10 minutes, and now you start doing it like a professional movie, to me, it's like, whoa, okay, I'm feeling it. Now the film is really starting. Like, this is the action. And I got that, and I was like, oh, whoa. It kind of threw me, and I was like, I wonder why that is. It's because it started really slow and mundane and not very professional, and then it's like, okay, no.
0 to 60 in a few seconds.
Yeah, it's like 0 to 60. It's like his death is kind of the transition from his mundane world into, you know, this more, you know, over the top world, and it kind of changes very much so for the rest of the film. As I said, the camera work is like, it's doing all kinds of stuff. It's like, it's pretty cool. Like, sometimes it just won't stay still. It's like just doing all sorts of stuff.
I didn't feel like it was terribly distracting, though.
No, I don't find it was distracting. I actually found, in some parts, I think it really kind of made...
Beautifully done.
Yeah, I think it was beautifully done. And I think at some points it kind of really enhanced the scene. Say, for example, when he's doing the last rites to that woman, and you can see he's looking at the blood. And I just love how that's cut. It's like, he's doing the press. There's the woman. There's this woman. Like, there's his face bandaged up. There's the blood. It's like, I really want the blood. And like, he dips it in the thing, does the last rites, and the camera goes all the way around the gurney, around his shoulder, all the way around, and gets him just licking the blood. I mean, that is so like artistically done, and it's got this payoff of just, and I just don't think you would get that of like, wow, that's a really cool shot. That's a really cool moment. If it would just be very simple of, she's not looking, lick the blood. The fact that it's set up in this very elaborate shot, I think like really enhances it. And there's so many scenes where I think kind of the uniqueness of the camera work really enhances like some point that they put across at the end of the scene.
I like the sequence where Taeju is running through the streets.
Yeah.
And Sang Hyun lifts her up, and then he scoots his shoes forward and puts her into the shoes. I really love that a lot. I think it's really wonderful.
And obviously you get a great callback, like I think it's like the last shot of the movie,
Yes.
isn't it? Where when they're all burnt and his shoes are on obviously her feet and the shoes just fall to the ground. Yeah, that was kind of a great moment.
Where they're in the hospital and she's sucking his thumb and he's sucking her toe or something. But then later when he brings her back to life, he's putting his wrist over her mouth.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But also it's great.
The weird blood transfusion.
Yeah.
I think there's so much that they did around when they were feeling all of the guilt about killing Kang Woo, and even Taiju, who obviously it was her idea. It's like still haunted. Like, and again, like the nuance in this film, it's like her husband isn't a bad guy necessarily. He's a man child who's an idiot, but he's not really the one who deserves to die or anything. But like, there's a scene where you absolutely do not see Kang Woo at all. But then he just appears behind Sung Hyun and like grabs at him. And then of course, just when they're having sex and he's in between them smiling with the snot and the water. Like, price of admission alone, that shot to me is so good. It's just so ridiculous. But I get it because I get exactly what they're saying though. It's just their relationship will never be the same now.
Yeah, there's so many like funny moments in this. It definitely has a humorous tone at times when like Sang Hyun is naked, like hitting himself, and like when he wakes up naked on his back and he's burning and just opens his eyes like, oh, I'm burning now.
I thought it was hilarious when he I can't remember the chain of events, but he falls from the roof or something onto a car. And I thought it was hilarious because I was expecting, like, he falls from the roof onto a car. I thought it was going to be like a badass landing or whatever. Like that. And then a shot of, on top, a bird's eye view of on the car. And he's head first through the windshield. Jesus. And I like how they just, like, stay on that while he awkwardly tries to pull his head out of the damn windshield.
That's a really funny moment, though. He's on his...
Yeah, it's hilarious.
He's on his back, but then he just slowly falls on his front, as he's trying to get out. Oh, it's just hilarious. Yeah, and he just uses a wardrobe as a coffin. That's a funny visual to me,
Yeah.
Oh, the Masha. Well, yeah, it's kind of funny and kind of sweet. The sort of double entendres that are kind of floating around.
Yeah.
When, I don't know, the husband says to his wife, oh, you don't know what you're doing. You're bad at this. And she's like, oh, no, I'm not good at this.
And you can see he's kind of like quivering, It's like really nervous.
And Sung Hyun's like, I could do this all night. And I just love that energy between them.
I think my funniest scene personally is like, I think anytime they have sex, to me it's hilarious. Like just how it's done. It just feels so over the top. It does feel like, which I suppose it is. It's like two virgins going at it, and they don't really know what the hell they're doing, and it's incredibly awkward and over the top. And it's like they're trying to figure this out. Yeah,
I'm going to lick her armpit.
Like licking her armpit. You're like, what the hell are you doing, man? But I love the noises in the second time they have sex, and because even the noise design, it's so over the top. The kisses are like,
yeah.
And I'm like, what?
All right, we don't need that, man. Come on.
Like, I couldn't stop laughing at that bit. I was like, calm the fuck down, man. He's like on her foot, and she's holding his arm. It's just so over the top.
But going back to Christina's point in the mahjong scene, it's very much like a classic like Friends episode of what they do there. They're talking about something very specific, but to us it's very different. I felt that's just like certain episodes of Friends, and there's just a great bit where the husband's like, yeah, how about we come do it again on Sundays, and and it's like, yeah, let's do that. That was hilarious.
And also I quite this has got to go in effects, but I quite like the special effects, and I do like that it's kind of gradually more and more as the film goes on, and it's kind of good that I don't really think there's a there's a drop off in quality of like the CGI. I just think
No.
it gets better and better, especially as you're using more of it to like, because I think that can sometimes be like a problem for some films, especially like I remember I used to watch this Korean film actually, which was called Brothers, and it was like a film in the Korean War, and they kind of did that. It was like little set pieces, more battles and stuff, and it was a pretty good film until the end where they have like fleets of planes, and the CGI was really shoddy. It just really took me out of the film. I was like, you were doing so well, but your ambition exceeded your grasp there. You know, the end was a bit too ambitious. But I think this really pulls it off. Like, even at the end when they're baking in the sun, I thought it looked cool. You know, their skin is like flaking off.
Mhm.
That looks really good, you know. So I really like the CGI in this film, and I do like that it's kind of gradually it gets more and more absurd as the film goes on. Especially like even the practical effects, like when she murders everybody in the room. That was grim. That was so like I wasn't expecting that, where she just punches that guy's head.
Yeah,
like
snaps his neck.
Yeah, just folds it up. You know, I was like, holy crap, and then just takes apart everybody. And yeah, that was pretty wild. So the practical effects were really good, and I think the CGI was pretty good as well. It was really good.
I really like the scene where Sang Hyun is chasing Taiju jumping from rooftops after
Me
she
too.
Yes.
after she's newly become a vampire at the hands of Sang Hyun. There's a mix of really good like wire work here and visual effects, as you said, Boaz, and I really liked it because it reminded me a lot of like Chinese movies like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Yeah, I got a definite feeling on that.
The way the characters hang in the air, almost floating, and it didn't feel out of place at all. I felt like it was quite romantic and flirtatious as well in that action. But then ends quite shockingly with Sang Hyun holding her legs just before she jumps, and her head like smashes against the ledge. I really enjoyed that scene. There's just great mix of humor and then shock and gore, you know, where you don't expect it. I think it's just really well done. The balance there, like, oh, we got a funny scene. Nope, boom, lots of blood or bone, and you know.
yeah, definitely. I think one of the cooler ones is like when she gets turned and she immediately is like standing in the middle of the road. What was it? That car. Yeah, and she pulls that guy out of the car. And it's just how it's done, like very seamlessly. I think that it's all in one take. Pulls him out, drags him across, and just like throws him a couple of miles over the hill, and then just flies after him. I was like, wow, that's actually that's pretty cool. It was kind of humorous and really well done from a visual standpoint. I was like, yeah, that's pretty good. Do you remember that bit where he's just getting in tune with his like vampire senses, and it does this really strange like red. Like it's a smash cut of everything he's hearing.
Oh yeah, that's my favorite scene. Yeah,
I thought that was a really good scene because you know I've seen stuff done like that before, but never quite like that because it's all got like a red filter and it's going through all of these things that he's witnessing, and the camera work is a bit off. Some of them are vibrating or stretching and stuff, and how they kind of bleed into each other. Especially like one frame where he's hearing a cat purr. And then you see like a cigar burn through the screen on the cat, and then that transitions into a guy smoking a cigar. I just quite like that. It was like the cigar burn. Oh, and it's a guy smoking a cigar.
I quite like the bit where it like zooms in like microscopically on his elbow, and you see like a skin thing.
yeah, that was good. Yeah, like dust mites on his body and stuff.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, that was really great. But yeah, it was mixed in with everything. And, you know, even that's, you know, that's shots, that's editing, and that's CGI. And I even thought that was a pretty good, like, look into, you know, vampire senses. And, yeah, quite disorienting as well.
Then straight after that, Kang Woo is, like, asleep on this waterbed, and Taiju has these pair of pliers in her hand and moves it just inside his mouth without touching. And the camera follows it the whole way, and you're reassured that you can see everything, that you know the camera can just stays on his mouth, and you don't know where the pliers are coming next to his mouth. Or, you know, or if she's going to stab him in the mouth. And it was very anxiety inducing, but it's just amazing that you have like 3 very intense scenes, one after the other, cut together so quickly, not giving you time to breathe. You know, the montage scene, and then before that, like he's like hitting himself, I think,
flagellation,
you know, when he's naked on the bed. So you've got like 3 really like whoa, what the hell's going on scenes, one after the other. And that whole sequence is definitely my favorite.
I do really like also when Sung Hyun like sees her at night and he sees like all the veins like in her like back kind of.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Yeah, because people who are like very pale, you can kind of see it, but obviously not on that scale. But I feel like that's the kind of good use of CGI that they used, is like punching up the normal instead of making something that doesn't exist.
Yeah, I really like that because that was so subtle. Because I was like, wow, is she that pale? You can see her veins, but you're like, no, there's no way. He's like got senses. He can sort of detect where the blood is flowing. I just thought that was really well done because it was so subtle that you're like, something wrong with her skin. Oh no, wait, shit, it's his eyes. Ah, and I thought that was pretty good.
Just again, any part with Kang Woo, like after his death, like when they're like the waterbed and the dripping, how she like they're just physically like it feels damp in there. Even like anytime that they are touching anything in that room, it just sounds damp. And then I don't know how Kang Woo, like his actor before this, like always had some snot running down his face, but they've kind of like enhanced that to the next level. And
it's really dripping.
It just was disgusting, but yeah.
Also, I thought it was really well done. Like even like his murder scene, you know, where they push him in the water, and it's so chaotic. But what really got me is where, you know, the hook goes in her ear, but it's like everything is shot so quickly. And it's like you really see the rip. It goes in her ear, and you really do see a chunk taken off of her ear.
Like, come on, do you have to have a close up there? Come on.
Yeah, I mean, it was such a really close up. It's like, whoa! You're like, oh my god, that hurt. You know, there's any place you're going to put a close up on, like, you know. Oh man, yeah, that was pretty intense.
Well, actually, I was thinking of the boat.
Yeah.
That whole boat sequence is great. But right before that, she's talking to Sung Kyung, but she's not looking at him at all. And she's like, are you going to take all night? And the husband, you know, thinks that she's talking to him.
Yeah.
And then she's like, you know, there's going to be like police and like EMTs and stuff. So like, we got to wrap this up, you know. But it kind of like pulls Kang Woo over backwards, and that's a really great shot too. The last sequence where she's trying to hide and he just keeps like thwarting, you know, every move that she makes, you know, by throwing the trunk door away.
That was again just hilarious. Like, I can just open the boot. The trunk.
Yeah, it's done so many different ways where it's just like just how it's paced. Like he's just abandoned the car there, and she starts freaking out, and she jumps in the boot, and he just rips off the boot, and so you're like, oh, she's screwed. And then she just casually picks up the boot and puts it back on and tries to hide again. It's like, no, take it off. And he's trying to throw it in the sea, and she's like trying to kick the shit out of him.
Yeah,
like breaks his arm, but he still like throws it away. Like, yeah, we're fucked here.
Whenever they're trying to communicate with the mother-in-law, Ra, and she's in her little catatonic state, and they're kind of like first laughing, like, all right, blink once for yes, long blink for no. But then she reveals with her bloody broken fingernails she's been scratching, killed, and then kind of like looks at Sung Kyun and
oh yeah, they move her chair as well, because they move her chair and her eyes are still just following him.
Yeah,
and then when they're like, so you mean these two? And she just blinks like so much. It's just such a great scene of just like, and just the way Taiju's just like, all right.
Yeah, well, I guess we're gonna do this. I'm gonna have to kill you. Yeah.
Gotta kill you all.
So directing score, Boaz, what shall we go with for Thirst?
Yeah, man, I thought the directing was top notch. As I said, you know, I think even one thing wrong here, you know, would have had a sort of unsatisfying feel. You know, if you know, the camera work I think was on point, sound design's on point, it looked really nice. I think everything was pretty on point. It does feel like, you know, a lot of work went into this.
It's incredibly stylized. Yeah, it definitely, it's in keeping with the tone of the film. 9s, are you thinking?
Yeah, I would go in the 9s, actually, yeah. I think my gut is telling me, like, 9.4 or 9.5. You know, so I'd go pretty high, because I just quite liked it. But, you know, that's me.
9.3?
Yeah, right.
World of Horror, what are you going for?
We're going 10.
Whoa.
Oh, nice.
Well, we wrote down 10 before.
Yeah. I forgot about this.
Cool.
That's a new strategy. I don't think anybody's gone 10 before.
Right, screenplay then. There's a lot of sex in this movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
I found it interesting how like Sang Hyun and Taeju's relationship kind of develops through the sex scenes as well. Like through Taeju being very like repressed and obviously being a virgin, and Sang Hyun obviously being a priest and doesn't know what he's doing. You know, the first sex scene, they're very awkward. The first few sex scenes, and very uncomfortable to watch. And then the sex scenes become like very funny, as we kind of talked about a little bit, where Sang Hyun is randomly licking Taeju's armpits. I'm like,
Yeah.
cool, whatever you like, dude. Which I found quite hilarious. Taeju's husband is killed. You know, he comes back to haunt them, and he's just in the middle of them with a massive smile on his face.
Yeah.
They're going for it, as Max said. It's just hilarious. But I just like the fact that there's great like narrative storytelling through sex, and it's like that's actually really refreshing to see in a horror movie.
Yeah, it's kind of like the first time he's very, very guilty about going through this, and he's like not really sure if he wants to go through this. And it is very stilted and very weird. Secondly, it's way too romantic and just over the top. Like he wants her intensely, where he just cannot handle himself. He's just licking whatever. And then, I think you're right. I think, and then, when they have guilt about him and they're just kind of, he's in between them and they're just trying to pretend he isn't there. And then I think when she's kind of like, she doesn't really like this idea anymore. She doesn't like her life now. So she, what was it? I think she sleeps with another guy as well or something, and she's not really into it.
Mm-hmm.
How can you do it 5 times?
It's like, she's kind of lost all kind of feeling for sex and for living at this point. So I do think, sex kind of tells a narrative thing. There are sex scenes at different points of their like emotional journey.
And it is very, I think, sweet and kind of sexy in the beginning. And then when she like goes full vamp, she doesn't, the emotions toward him completely change. Yeah. And they have this conversation where he's like, I don't like killing people. Like I'll do like mercy killings and stuff. And she's like, it's the best. Like, so they just have like this totally different view of what it's like to be a vampire.
Well, and it makes sense that they don't know these things about each other, because they really have only had clandestine like moments. And also she's never really had the, like, I love in the story just showing the contrast of like what that kind of power would do with a man who's been repressing himself, literally beating himself his whole life. Not that I'm saying that's a good thing. I don't think he should be doing that, but he has. So he's good at repressing it.
Unless you enjoy it,
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But she's just like, I hate my life. Nothing matters. Who am I going to lose? I'm just going to go batshit. But that makes sense. I don't know. It makes sense for her character to do that. Why would she just now be very reserved?
I also think there's like quite a change in sort of their dynamic, because I mean, they're both not in a good place like at life, to start with. She doesn't really like where she is. He really wants her and stuff, and this doesn't really square with his Christian faith. When she finds out that he's a vampire the first time, I think that's kind of a hilarious scene where he's like, I'll show you. And then she just runs out and the camera just goes down on the door. And like, just as the door swings open before it closes, he's like sipping blood on the floor. Like, straw. Oh, that was funny.
It's like a nice delayed reveal there.
Yeah, I like that. I like that reveal. I would have put that in directing as well, because I thought that scene was pretty great. It's a great way to sort of to show that in one shot. But where she's kind of terrified of him when he comes through the window, and she's kind of warming up to this idea, and then she's more fascinated by him. Can you jump that? Can you do this? And wants to learn more about him and being a vampire. And then you get towards the end when she's very resentful, but still quite afraid of him when, she's killed by him. But then that dynamic completely switches when she changes. I think she kind of is a different character. She's kind of like her more repressed self, given power and stuff, because she's violent, she's sarcastic, she's really mean-spirited, and he's afraid of her. Like, that whole thing changes. It's like, he was the one sort of teaching her the ropes, and she was in awe of him. But now it's just a complete other way around. Like, he has no idea what she's doing. You know, she's on another level to him.
Yeah.
You know, and I quite like that.
And the makeup work and the costuming that they did with that was just so great. Because I mean, that actress is beautiful. She looked beautiful throughout the whole movie, but like she obviously has a glow about her and a vibrancy. And I mean, they added some blush, you know, to her face and took out like the dark circles. But it really does like work. She just looks like a supermodel. Like after the transformation.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and she's dressing like you know, a lot more. Well, just more fashionable, you know. It's like I can pull this off now, so a lot more confident.
I really enjoyed the scenes with Mrs. Ra, where after she goes into a coma-like state, but can't like move at all apart from her eyes, and Taiju still, you know, lives with her, and obviously sees Sang-hyun visit Taiju a lot, and Mrs. Ra sees and hears everything that's been going on, and you know that they've killed Taiju's husband, and that she's become a vampire, and at first she seems harmless, but we know as the film goes on, this is not going to end well, you know, as she starts moving a little bit more with each scene. And when we get to another brilliant mahjong scene and the family work out that Taiju and Sang-hyun killed her husband, it's brilliant and laced with brilliant humor again, where Taiju tries to control the situation by lifting up Mrs. Ra in her chair and forget she's really strong now and just puts her down and like, oh yeah, I forgot, sorry. Also, it's amazing acting from Taiju where she mimics like Evelyn, the woman crying, but she stops suddenly and it's this just has this cheeky smile, just like I don't care anymore, you know, I'm loving being a vampire. It's just a great like transformations scene psychologically. You're like, you know what, I'm ready to kill all of you now. I think the one scene that encapsulates the whole tone of this film, and we talked about it a little bit, and the relationship between Sang-hyun and Taiju is that last scene on the cliff top with the car. Sang-hyun has got to the point where he's lost all hope in saving and protecting Taiju as a human and as a vampire as well, especially. And when Taiju ends up killing her whole family and both of them end up being very lost, and Sang-hyun is, you know, his only option is to commit suicide with Taiju. And like the cliff scene is brilliant because it's largely unspoken and you think it's going to be very emotional, but before you get to that emotional moment, there's amazing touches of humor and brutality where Sang-hyun kicks off, as we said, like he kicks off the boot of the car and Taiju gets in the car boot and shields herself with the lid, you know, from the sunrise that's coming. But he simply just takes it off, and that's just hilarious.
I think what makes it really funny, you know, the touches of comedy is like just putting the mundane with the absurd. I think that just makes it really funny. You're like, it's absurd. These people can like literally lift cars, and you know they're gonna melt in the sun. That's crazy. They're just taking off a car thing from each other. I want to put that. No, I'm going to take it off. I'm going to take it off. You know, that's so mundane. You know, it's brilliant in the context of what's going on.
That's hilarious. But then there's like really brutal moments where she breaks his arm and you can see bone coming out, and it's just like, whoa. And the scene lasts a long time, you know, until Taiju submits and they burn together.
And then I think it's even quite sad when it's and quite touching where it's like they just stand there and they realize, this is it, and then they sit together. So it's a kind of range of motions where you're like, it's really well done. I would say for me, my least favorite part of the script, I think we've touched on it. I do like it because of its visual appeal. It's essentially from when they kill her husband to when she gets bitten and becomes a vampire. To me, like, there's a lot of scenes where he keeps showing up, you know, and like in hallucinations and they're feeling very guilty. I think the first 2 times that happened, I was kind of on board. The first time I didn't know what the hell was going on. Like, he just appeared in the bed. I was like, is he alive? Like, what the hell is going on? Is he a vampire? Did he bite him under? What is going on? And then I think by the second time I sort of realized like he was a hallucination. But then he just kept showing up for quite some time. And I was like, I'm not exactly sure what the hell's going on here. You know, I'm not. It kind of, to me, it overstayed its welcome. There were some really great visual moments with it, but for me, it just felt like it went on a bit too long. It feels like stuff was happening. You know, I sort of get what was going on, but it just kind of kept going a bit too long. I think you could have trimmed some of that down. I think you've kind of made the point. If you see two hallucinations with him, you kind of got the point. But you know, so that's my thing. Or their relationship as well, where it very much seems they're not really in love with each other anymore. And I think there were a bit too many scenes of that. So just in this middle bit where I'm like, I think you're just kind of treading the same point again and again.
Yeah.
But that's my only criticism from a pacing point.
Like, I understand that, and I feel like I also have the benefit of like I just had the firm knowledge that like he was dead. So when I saw him, I was like, oh, cool, it's a hallucination. Whereas like if it was your first time seeing it,
yeah, I was quite confused.
Like if anything confuses you while watching it, then I do think the movie should have done a better job explaining it. I almost feel like it being so kind of like drawn out a little bit kind of feels like I don't want to like, it's definitely not me being like, well, it was the point, so it's supposed to be like that. But like, I feel like their plan went awry. Like they kind of just thought it would be like, all right, he's gone, but Ra just kept it open. Like, no, we just still haven't found the body yet. And now they're feeling weird because they have, you know, this elephant in the room between them. So I feel like it was in a way kind of supposed to be like, no, you kind of thought it would just be a smooth sailing from here, but you've overcomplicated everything.
You thought it'd go away. I still quite liked it, mainly because he was hilarious as well.
That little face.
Those haunting scenes are just very compelling. You know, I wouldn't have actually minded more of that guy. More scenes with just weird, funny, you know, visuals. So it didn't bother me too much. I mean, this is a long film. It didn't feel long though, which I think was great.
I really like that whole section of the movie. And I like it because they're sort of like, it's not just in his head. It's not just in her head. Like they're both having difficulty with this. And he's so disgusting, you know, with the snot running down his face. And he's like under the comforter and he's just like right there. And it's just really awful. But like Max said before, I think the beginning is a little confusing.
Yeah.
And I don't think they did a great job explaining why he volunteers for this.
Why is he staying there? Like I feel like that's still a question. And I had to look up her age, and I wish this was better explained because at that time, that actress who played Taiju was 22. Kang Woo was 35. Kang Sang-ho was 42. And so it's like, and they said that, you know, she entered the family when she was younger, but I was like, that's a big age difference.
Yeah.
Like, that's not new in any movie or Korean cinema, but it just was very confusing to me, and I wish it was better explained.
I think just from a technical standpoint, and this just occurred to me, but casting somebody who's pretty young was probably a really smart move because she seems very innocent.
Oh, for sure.
You know, in the beginning. But then when she vamps out, you know, you can do that with makeup. In that direction, you just can't make somebody look younger.
I just wish, like, if they would have just had a little bit of a better explanation, because I was like, she did not know that man when she was a child, because she is a child. Like, like, what are you talking? Like, she did not grow up with this man 20 years older than her.
But also, just the whole virus, we don't hear any more about the virus after the first part of the movie. And what about the vampire blood that gets transfused into... Like, what? Yeah.
Was it from the original guy that was on the bed from the very first scene?
No, I don't think so. I think he just got a bad batch.
He needed a blood transfusion. He was losing a lot of blood. And they picked a vampire is donating blood for some goddamn reason. I've got no idea.
Yeah.
I think it's very much just a plot device, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just a plot device. It's just a way to sort of get the plot running. I also thought it was kind of an interesting thing because, you know, to me, narratively, I'm not sure if it just came out of nowhere, but at the end, when he's planning on, you know, ending this and she's gone too far and stuff, and he's making plans and stuff, and there are these people that kind of worship him, you know, this cult. Mm-hmm. And especially when they see him fly and they think he's like some sort of angel or whatever. But then he comes back where he's like, yeah, I've had enough of this after she massacres all those people. And it's like, yeah, this is wrong. But then he goes to that group and attempts to rape someone.
I think he just wanted them to think he did so that they would be like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, this is what I was thinking. Yeah, because at first I was like, why is he doing that? I think I did make some sort of explanation. Like, he's trying to ruin his reputation. I don't think he's actually trying to do anything. But he doesn't want people to revere him. He wants them to know he's evil. You know, so this would just die with him.
That could be explained better.
Yeah, like I'll just traumatize this one girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things, like, when that happened, I was like, dude, this is so out of character. I thought you were going on the good side. It was one of those things where I had to sort of, like, kind of make a reason afterwards. You know, so it's almost like it was never really stated what the hell was he doing or his plan. I just had to, like, read between the lines.
It does feel very jarring, that inclusion, doesn't it?
There are some things he does which are pretty jarring, where I'm not sure if he has, like, an overall plan here or what is actually going on, or if he's just becoming evil again. And maybe that's the intent. So another one is his mentor that he quite likes, who's, like, been giving him some blood.
Mm-hmm.
And he wants to be a vampire so he can see the world. And he stabs him in the heart, you know, when he says he's going to give him some blood, and then drinks the blood out of his chest. And I was like, why did he do that exactly? Did he just lose control, or just he didn't want him to be a vampire, or he was afraid he would spill the secret?
Possibly.
It's like, I'm not exactly sure what he was going for there.
I think he sees it as a curse. Like he knows that he didn't die, but he's like, I mean, I feel like it's maybe his idea of just like nobody else should be turned into a vampire. And then he never wanted to do it with Taiju, but then felt so bad that she was dying and made a mistake. But I feel like that was him deciding, like, I'll never do this, but then did.
Yeah, I think it could be. It could be something like that. I'm not sure why he had to kill him, though, but maybe it was just like, maybe he's almost certainly going to die a good man and go to heaven. I'm not entirely sure, but the point is, he doesn't really say,
No, he renounces, like,
yeah, I'm done with this.
yeah. Screw all this,
Yeah.
like, religious stuff. Yeah, he just, like, says goodbye. So, but yeah, I agree that he didn't want to turn his mentor into a vampire because he thinks of it as almost like the worst kind of sin you can take on or whatever.
I did love the scene where he's proving to him that he's a vampire. It's like, look, your hand is inside my chest.
Yeah.
That was quite like, oh, what the hell am I seeing here? You know, because it cuts straight to that visual. I'm like, oh, what? Hang on, what? His hand is in his chest. Okay, right.
Yeah.
Favorite lines, people? Got any cool lines?
I mean, I just love his dramatic, how dramatic that monologue is when he's like, if I die, don't bury me. Like, should all my limbs fall off? You know, it's just like, I think there's a lot of scenes where they just drive home who the characters are. Same thing with just Taiju and just like that scene of her doing that to Kang Woo. It's just, without even saying anything, you just know, oh, she like hates him and dreams about killing him. But like, she never has to say that. So I think there's a lot of great nonverbal storytelling too.
Kill me or save me, you'll regret it either way.
Yeah, I love that.
And then he says, you're the only one I've got now. That's quite a poignant moment in the movie. Yeah, I wanted to live with you forever and ever, together again in hell then. When you're dead, you're dead. It's been fun, Father. That's the last lines.
Yeah, that was pretty damn good. I'd say one line that I thought was kind of like unintentional, no, maybe intentionally hilarious and really dark. So I'm gonna maybe pick that, and I almost completely forgot about it until I was just thinking now. But after she like massacres all those people, and then she's trying to like drain that guy's blood, and it's like like no blood is coming out, and he's just very matter of fact. It's like, well, you can't really get much blood if their heart stops pumping. What you should do is just hang them above a bathtub and slash their ankles. That should get you some extra blood out of her. You know, it's really kind of morbid.
Yeah, he just describes it like he's making a coffee or something, you know.
Yeah. He's like, the good granules are at the bottom of the bag. You just need to shake it. You know, it's kind of like that.
Do this and
Just thought it was pretty funny.
But I like her totally different viewpoint on everything. Like from the beginning, he's like, we shouldn't do this because, you're married and I'm a priest. And she's like, yeah, I don't have any religion, so
I don't care.
Let's just do it. And then at the end, when he says something about hell, she's like, when you're dead, you're dead. That's it.
It's been fun.
And I just love it that she stays consistent with that, but they have these sort of conversations about I don't know what they believe. And his vision there at the end of like
Oh, the sea of blood.
the sea
yeah.
of blood
Yeah,
and
that's
everything.
Oh yeah.
So he's like still kind of committed to this worldview, but she doesn't share it at all. And so that's kind of sad too. Like
Yeah.
at the moment of death, they don't have the same
Yeah.
thought. But I do think they do. I mean, in their vampiric way, I do think they love each other.
Vampires are cuter than I thought. It's a nice one.
Yeah.
I love Mrs. Ra. Like, smells like when you had gastritis. I'll go find the pills.
Oh my god.
So gross.
Horrible.
I like it when he says, "Do you want me to tear him in two like I did that coin?"
Oh, yeah, that was pretty cool, yeah.
My favorite line is when Mrs. Ra collapses and ends up in hospital, and her family say in turn, "This is why we should all watch our blood pressure. Watch your drinking and stay away from salty foods. Let's give Mrs. Ra our positive energy, Oasis style." I was just like belly laughing. I was like, it's so dry and understated. It was just amazing, that bit.
Yeah.
Script score then, Boaz, what are we going for?
I would still go pretty high. Again, to me, you know, I seem to be the odd one out here, but yeah, I do feel like it kind of lost me in the middle. But that's just me, and then it got me back at the end. But
What? So middling 8, high 8?
yeah, probably like a high 8. Yeah, maybe like an 8.8.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. Yeah. World of Horror, what are you going for screenplay?
We came way down.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we decided 7.8.
Wow. Okay.
Okay.
Just because there are sections that are confusing.
Yeah, exactly. I think I was saying this, like, there are bits where you get a bit lost, like, why are they doing this or what's going on? And you got to read between the lines. You know, they're not very well explained.
Should we go a bit lower then? I had an amazing time. I'm happy to go down a little bit to like an 8.6, but
Yeah, no, I don't think we should go down that much. We don't have to, you know, mirror everything. We're not parrots, for God's sake. Make up your own goddamn mind, Martin. Be your own man.
you do it all the time.
Yeah. So, you know, stay with your convictions. So, you know, we'll stay. And I think we did 8.7, right?
Fine.
No, man. You know, I know I usually do that, but we gotta save face. We gotta look strong. If you
Stay strong.
waver,
Stay
you
strong.
waver. You don't look strong. You
Yeah.
don't look strong.
I'm just doing to you, but anyway.
Yeah, you're being me. I'm being you now.
Yeah, we've switched roles. What's going on?
I'm being the forceful one. For God's sake, Boaz. Yeah, we've switched roles.
Wrong type of horror film. Right, acting. The acting in the first sex scene between Sang Hyun and Taiju is brilliantly awkward, especially when Taiju takes her bra off and like Sang Hyun just looks away. But when the family shout down like to Taiju, "Hot water bottle!"
Yeah.
And again, you can really feel the awkwardness of them. Like, well, I guess we got to stop shagging now. Okay.
Yeah, but when he looked away, that she was like kind of like opening up, like was very proud of her breasts, or trying to be, pretending to be. And then when it was like he wasn't interested, it's like I don't know what the hell to do with my hands and my boobs here. It just, yeah, I like that. I thought that was very cute.
Yeah. There's a really interesting scene where Sang Hyun is carrying Taiju up some stairs after Sang Hyun sees bruises on her leg, and he asks her, "Want me to rip him like a coin?" And you see on her face that she's really considering it, like, "Ooh, could you?" Then she like grips his shoulder, like the idea of Sang Hyun killing her husband sounds really exciting. But obviously later she's self-harming and, you know, just giving him an excuse to kill her husband. But I just quite like that really subtle moment of just that grip on his shoulder of like, oh, this excites me, you know. Could you actually do this?
I like when she slips and she says, "Kang Woo never laid a hand on me." And then all of a sudden she's like she freezes.
That is crazy that you said that, Christine. I was actually going to say that exact scene. I'm not like pretending. I'm not like, you know, trying to be more awesome than I am, because I am. But yeah, no, I 100% was going to say that. Yeah, I thought that scene was really cool. Where it's, she makes that slip up. Because doesn't she slaps the mother-in-law or something. She like hits her, and then he kind of instinctively hits her down because it's like, that's disrespectful. And she's like, well, he would never, you know, my husband would never hit me. It's just like the immediate, oh shit, what have I said? And him just like, what the fuck did you just say? Just with the faces before they even get into the dialogue of like, you betrayed me. It's brilliant. Just how the eyes fall. Like, oh my God, just killed an innocent man for like no reason.
One little moment I remember is when Evelyn, who's like the wife of a family friend or something, who is learning Korean, when they're trying to put together like the letters that Ra has scratched down, they get the letters, but they don't know what direction to do it in. And she's like, well, it's K, like the D's at the end, you know? They're like really kind of proud of her for like learning Korean. I just thought that was a cute moment.
Oh, well done.
But then, you know, then they find out, oh, no, well, he's murdered.
Yeah, I mean, how she acts it out, I think, was wonderfully... It was accurate. It was really well acted, but, like, really sadistic. And where the girl, like, screams and, like, pounding on her husband, like, oh, my God, like, you know, because they killed that guy. And she imitates that perfectly. It's like, just over the top. But it's perfect. It's like taking the piss, but doing it exactly. And then she kind of just smiles at them. And it's like, you know, it's an evil smirk and, you know, she's going to kill them. And she gets very serious. And I just love that whole thing. I thought that was tremendously well acted.
He is amazing.
I was like, yeah, it was really beautifully done. I was like, is she really breaking down of the crime that they've done? And it's like, no, she's taking the piss. Okay, she's going to kill them all. Yeah. All right.
I love Mrs. Ra in this film. I love the scene where Mrs. Ra is really drunk and sees Sang Hyun come into the room like all wet. And thinks it's Kang Woo who was killed in the boat accident, and she goes from like being incredibly excited to see him to very emotional to really angry in like the space of like 20 seconds, and then starts fitting. I mean, now that's just brilliant acting to me. Just going for it so much, like from 3 different emotions to really quickly. I just thought that's amazing. I love this character. And it's kind of weirdly a shame that she goes in this coma like state, but even that in itself is just really skilled acting. The fact that you're not, because half of acting, what actors say is that like half of acting is reacting to what the other characters are doing, but obviously she's has to stay completely still and just act with her eyes. You know, I think that's actually deceptively quite difficult, I would say. So Mrs. Ra is my favorite performance for me, played by Kim Hae-suk, I believe.
I guess I'll say I think Taiju is definitely, I just think she kills it.
Yeah, she kills a lot of people.
She kills the audience and people in the movie. And I just think she's just like very magnetic.
Yeah, I think I would go Taiju as well. I think the first half where she's really awkward and quite, you know, reserved, and she's just a different character to later, where she's just, you know, so wicked and so free and confident. I just really like her transformation, and I thought the actress did a bang-up job. So to me, you know, I quite like her. I think I would go with her.
I was going to go with her too, but I want to throw in Kang Woo.
Cool.
Shin Ha-kyun is the actor, and he's actually the lead in Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance. And if you watch both performances, you'll see what I mean.
Okay.
I mean, he's like 2 completely different guys, but he's just such a goofball, and he has no like sense of his body.
No social awareness as well. Yeah, doesn't care. Just burp and fart and
no, not at all.
Just completely clueless.
Yeah, I'm almost sad when he, you know, leaves.
Yeah.
Like, you know, leaves the scene. Yeah, so I really enjoyed him. I think the woman who played Taeju is just really amazing. But I mean, these are like heavy hitters in terms of the cast. I mean, and I don't think there are any bad performances.
No, not at all. Acting score, Boaz. I'm willing to go pretty high, to be honest. 9s, do you reckon?
Yeah, I think so.
What do you think about 9.2?
How about just like a 9? Just like a straight 9, no points?
Yeah, I'm happy with that. World of Horror, what are you going for acting?
We went 10.
10 again.
Yeah, 10 again.
Brilliant strategy. I think this might win.
Now I gotta say, this is Mac's strategy. Yeah, this is Mac's strategy. So
Wow.
wow,
I don't know where this is coming from.
this is very on brand for Mac, because Mac's thing is like, if you can't do any better, then, you know,
Yeah,
score it a
okay.
10. So
I can't score anything top marks if I can think of one little thing I do different, but I can't think of anything.
Okay.
I'm also not an
Okay.
actor, but
Yeah.
Yeah, we never pretend to be experts on any of this.
Oh,
It's
God.
just
We have no idea
Yeah.
what we're talking about 9 times out of 10.
No.
You know,
let's add up the scores then for thirst.
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 Yeah, I'm quite thirsty actually.
I've just drank like 2 cups of tea while we've been doing thirst, actually. So my thirst is quashed. Didn't need to drink any blood
Oh, thank goodness.
yet.
Thirst gets 54.8,
whoa.
Wow, that is really, really
which wins this week against Let the Right One In with 53.6. So
Wow.
really
Yeah.
high scoring films for this week. Next week, as The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent movie is coming out soon. So we'll be doing Nick Cage films for that one. We will have guests for that one, hopefully.
Can we have Nicolas Cage himself? Can we please?
I will try, but it might be hard. But we'll have the Culture Bucket podcast as guests for that week. So that'll be very exciting to
Right.
listen to that one. World of Horror, you have been amazing. What's your Instagrams? You want to tell people, social media, where can we find you?
You can find us at World of Horror Podcast on Instagram.com and worldofhorror96@gmail.com.
If you're interested, I stream Monday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays on Twitch at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time at The Gay Jimmy Buffett.
Okay,
Cool.
cool. Are you playing anything really cool currently for Twitch?
Yes, right now I'm playing Near Automata,
Oh, sweet.
which is really great about I don't know what is being a person and androids and humanhood. So
philosophy. It's pretty heady stuff. Yeah, I quite like that.
yeah, so
Yeah.
fun.
Cool.
Come watch.
Yeah, thank you so much, you guys. Christina and Mac, you have been amazing. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, you too. Yeah.
And of course, bye-bye to our resident daywalker, Mr. Boaz Diggs. Thank you very much. Bye.
Yeah.
That's it for this week's pod. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. If you would like to find out more about the podcast or suggest future topics for us to discuss related to upcoming releases, let us know on Instagram at Film vs. Film Podcast and on Twitter at FVF_podcast. Remember, please subscribe. Pod signing off.